This is IMT News.
देखती आंखों सुनते कानों आपको रशंदा जाहिद का सलाम। आप देख रहे हैं IMT न्यूज फ्रॉम लंदन। मुख्तार पानीवाला एक मेहनती, हमदर्द और खिदमत खल्क के जज्बे से सरशार शख्सियत हैं। अपनी जिंदगी के तजर्बात और जद्दोजहद के जरिए उन्होंने ये साबित किया कि अगर नीयत नेक हो तो हर मुश्किल आसान हो जाती है। वो बरसों से माजूर अफराद की खिदमत में मसरूफ अमल हैं और इनके मसाइल को समझकर इनके हुकूक के लिए जद्दोजहद कर रहे हैं। उन्होंने मुख्तलिफ फलाही इदारों और समाजी तंजीमों के साथ मिलकर दर्जनों ऐसे मंसूबे मुकम्मल किए जो माजूर अफराद की जिंदगी में आसानी लाएं। इनकी रहनुमाई में दर्जनों लोगों को व्हील चेयर, आले समात, छड़ी, माली मदद और मुख्तलिफ तरबियती मौके फराहम किए गए हैं। मुख्तार पानीवाला की जिंदगी एक मिसाल है कि किसी भी कम्युनिटी की खिदमत दिल से की जाए तो तब्दीली जरूर आती है। उन्हें न सिर्फ यूनिवर्सल मेमन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बल्कि पूरी मेमन कम्युनिटी फख्र से देखती है। मुख्तार पानीवाला की मुतासिर कुन सवाने उम्री कई अकसाद पर मुश्तमिल है। देखते रहिए और हमारे साथ जुड़े रहिए।
आइए देखते हैं पार्ट 8।
Hello, friends. This is Mukhtar Paniwala, president of the Disabled Wing at the Universal Memon Organization. Today, I want to take you on a journey, a ride through the incredible story of trains, from their very beginning right up to the latest magnet-powered wonders. If you've ever sat by a train window and watched the world race by, this episode is for you. Let's imagine it. The year is 1825 and the world is about to change forever. In England, the first public railway service opens, carrying both goods and passengers. At that time, trains were amazing new beasts, huge machines powered by steam. The earliest locomotives, like Stephenson's famous rocket, used boiling water to create steam, which pushed pistons and turned wheels. That's interesting because, for decades, steam ruled the rails. It wasn't just England either. Steam trains quickly connected the United States coast to coast, rolled through India from Bombay to Thane, and raced across Russia's frozen heart. But steam, for all its charm, was slow to start, messy, and needed almost constant fueling. So engineers started dreaming of something better. That spark led to diesel locomotives. The first experimental diesel train ran in Sweden as early as 1912, but it took until the 1930s and 40s for diesel to really catch on, especially in the United States. Suddenly, there were mighty engines that ran farther with fewer stops, with less pollution and more power. Indian Railways, for example, used steam right up till the 1970s before switching to diesel in a big way. Of course, nobody was content to stop there. Enter the electric locomotive. In the early 20th century, cities in Europe began running trains using overhead wires or electrified third rails. Why? Because electric trains were fast, almost silent, and, unlike diesel, they could get tremendous acceleration, perfect for stop-and-go city travel and high-speed lines. The Swiss, Germans, and French all helped perfect electric locomotive technology. Today, most of Europe's and Japan's passenger trains, as well as India's busiest routes, use electric traction, which brings us to the most futuristic leap: magnetic power. Maglev, short for magnetic levitation, describes trains that float above the track, held aloft and pushed forward by powerful magnets. Japan has been a leader here with the Chuo Shinkansen maglev train setting speed records of over 600 kilometers an hour. China now runs the world's fastest regular maglev service, making distances that once required a plane ride doable in just minutes. No wheels, no friction, just smooth sci-fi travel. So, what's fascinating is how countries have raced to improve train technology. The UK gave the world the first passenger railway and perfected steam. The USA's focus went to diesel, driving growth over vast distances. French engineers designed the TGV, a high-speed marvel, while Japan's Shinkansen redefined what was possible on rails. Today, China leads in high-speed and maglev train construction with lines that stretch thousands of kilometers. But all these technological leaps depend on what's under the train, the tracks themselves. Here's where rail gauge comes in. Think of rail gauge as the distance between the two rails on which a train rides. Standard gauge is the most common, at 1435 millimeters. It's considered the sweet spot for balancing speed, safety, and cost. India and Russia use broad gauge, which is wider, great for heavy loads and stability, especially on long routes. Narrow gauge, which is less than standard, winds through mountains and sharp curves, perfect for places like the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway. So, to sum up, there are three main types. Narrow gauge, less than 1435 millimeter, used in mountains and for light rail. Standard gauge, 1435 millimeter, about 4 feet 8.5 inches. The global standard, broad gauge, wider than 1435 millimeter, found in places like India and Russia. Some countries have odd sizes too, which means trains can't always cross borders without changes. What strikes me about the technology, steam, diesel, electric, maglev, is how humans have always searched for something better. Every country built on the ideas before, making trains faster, safer, and more reliable. Each new version changed how far people could travel, how quickly goods moved, and how easily the world connected. From the smoke and steam of the old days to today's clean, silent, magnetic rides, it's impossible not to be amazed at what we've achieved. And honestly, trains are more than machines. They're part of human stories, of migration, adventure, and everyday life. Maybe you remember your first train trip, the sound of the whistle in the night, the feeling of the tracks rushing beneath you. That's why I love trains. They're about connection, movement, and progress, always pulling us toward the future. Thank you for listening and joining me, Mukhtar Paniwala, for this special journey from the age of steam to the age of magnets. The next time you see a train pass, just think. Each one carries a little bit of history, a dash of hope, and a whole lot of technology.
Rakshinda Zahid, IMT News, London.